Hello folks, today we are going to describe about crash course on API testing using Postman. So in this video I will explain all the topics related with API testing using Postman. So these are the topics: what is an API, key components of an API, how API works, what is Postman, HTTP methods, all HTTP methods, and API authentication, understanding JSON and XML, response validations and assertions, snippets. I will be talking about snippets, how to use that, and make the validations, how we have to use the scripts. In scripts, post response is there, pre request is there, how to use variables, how we have to save into variables, API chaining, what is the concept of API chaining in Postman, in API testing, data driven testing. In this video I will describe all the topics in a very short duration of time. So if you are a learner or you want to make enhancement of your skills in API testing using Postman, or if you are going for the interview or you want to revise the concept, this video is for you. Just sit, relax and watch the videos. I'm damn sure at the end of this video you will be able to work on any projects. You will be familiarized with all the concepts that is required for the API testing using Postman. So let's get started. So the first topic is, what is an API? API stands for Application Programming Interface. API is a set of rules that lets different software programs talk to each other. It defines how to make request and exchange data between applications. Let's say it is a client and it is a server. So this is called client and this is called server. When the client send a request to the server, so in that HTTPS protocol will be following HTTPS. In that some URL will be there plus endpoint will be there. Endpoints will be there. So when the client sends the request to the server, server just accept this response and process the request and send back the response to the client. So this is the phenomenon which is being conducted in the API testing. So let's come here. So this is saying API is a set of rules, protocols that lets user different software programs talk to each other. So in that, two software is being communicating, client and server. So two software is being communicating with each other, sending the request to server and sending back to the response to the client. So this is what it is saying. It defines how to make requests and exchange data between applications. Now, key components of an API. So first one is endpoints. So what is called endpoints? When specific URLs where API expose their services. So let me talk here. Let's say there is example, let's say www dot facebook.com and followed with one users. So that is called user. So this is the URL. This whole part is called URL, and this user, this is called endpoint. So you API endpoint is called as, this is called endpoint, and this complete information till here, it is called API endpoint. API endpoint, API endpoint, or we can say API URL or API URL. So if it is www.facebook.com, till here it is called URL. So till here it is called URL, and if followed with this user, it is called endpoint, and this complete information, that is called API endpoint or API URL. Now come here. So this is what example https simple books api glitch.me/api clients. So I will be demonstrating with many http methods with this example. I have already taken this http methods like this, and I will illustrate with this example. Let me talk here. So this from here https simple books api glitch.me till me, it is called base URL or URL, and from here slash API clients. So this is called endpoint, and the complete information. So HTTPS, this complete information called, that is called API URL. Now the second component is request. What is request? Whenever we are sending some information to the server and server just interact with that request, that is called request. So the calls made by clients to interact with the API, this typically involves in sending data to the server and receiving a response. So here request is, so let me talk here client. So this is client always send request to the server. So this will always request, and whenever the server sends some information to the client, this is always called as response. So this is called response. So what is methods? Actions you can perform with the API, such as get. Get is used for retrieve the information. Post is for create the information. Put is for update, and patch is for partial update, and delete is for remove. So let me talk here. So whenever the client, so this is the client, and when the client, so this is the client, and when the client sends some information to the server, so this is the server. So this will be coming through some method like http methods. So http method is some post. First of all we will create this, then get is for retrieve, post is for create. Then when we want to update, then we will be using put method, put or patch. I will illustrate you with many examples what are the difference between put and patch, and we can use delete method as well. So apart from that, there are also HTTP methods, but mainly we are using these methods on in our request: post, get, put, patch, delete. So these are all the methods. Responses. So the data or result sent back from the server after the request is processed. So here I have already illustrated you. So here when the server responds back to the client, so this is called response. This is called response. How API works? Client makes a request. First of all, client makes a request, then server process the request, and then server responds. So let me talk here. So this is the client, this is the server. So server denoting with S, client is denoting with C. So when the request is being sent, so the first action would be client sends some request to the server. The server process the request, receives and process the request. It just retrieves the information and send process the request and send back response to the client. So this is third step, this is first step. So client sends some information, this is the first step. Server process the request, this is the second step, and server sends back response to the client. So this is third step. this is what it is saying. Client makes a request. The client example, a web browser or mobile app. So client, what is client? Client is something that from where we are just requesting to the server. So that is called client. Either it is a web browser or mobile app. So send web browser, send a request to the API endpoint. Now server process the request. The server receives the request, process it, and performs the necessary operations. Now server responds. So this is the third step. The server sends back a response to the client, which can include the requested data or a status message. Now, what is Postman? So, Postman is a tool. Postman is a tool which is used for creating, testing, and manage APIs. So, let me illustrate it here. So, this is the Postman overview. So, in that, we can create collection, we can make a request, we can send a request, we will get the response, we will just after sending the response we will generate some status code. We can validate it, we can use assertions. So I will illustrate you with many examples, I will illustrate you all the topics in this video itself. So let me continue here. Enough talking about some theory part, let's talk to the practical. Now http, we are moving towards http methods. So this api is available at https simple books api.glitch.me. So this is the API is available at this point. So this API allows you to reserve a book. So this API is used to reserve a book. So I have already listed out. So description, register API client. So for this type of URL and endpoints, first of all you need to register your API client. Then some token will be generated. Then we will be using post request to submit an order. Then we using get request to get an order. Then we will be using patch method to update an order, and then we will be using delete to delete an order. So let's talk to that. So I have already illustrated in step one, register API client. So what things need to be passed? So this is the post request. So in that we need to use base URL. So here we are using base URL in the curly braces, means this is a variable which we are using in the Postman. So we have already set it into the this variable in the environment variable. That's why we are using here base URL. So whenever we have requirement to use the or fetch the variable, fetch the data from the variable, then we will be using this starting curly braces and this ending curly braces along with the variable name whatever you have made in base URL. So in if you will go here, so this is the variable name I have already marked is a base URL. So fetch this URL and along with this API endpoints. So API clients will be the endpoints, and what needs to you send. So this is the post request. So you need to send the body, and in that response we will be getting access token, and we are also validating this post response. Like we are setting the bearer token in the environment variable. So let's do it practically. So go to the Postman. Let me choose blank collection, and here I will be using https methods and create one collection for access token. So just create collection, let's say API access access token. So what things you need to pass? First of all, in this collection, you need to click on the three dots and come here, add request. And in that, you need to use post request, because in the requirement says whenever you need to register API client, so you need to use post request. That's why I have selected this post, and I just want to use this URL. So how we will be using? So let's say So I'm copying this URL for now, and I will be, from next onwards, I will be storing this URL into the environment variable. From there I will be fetching using base URL. So let me continue to the Postman. So go to the here, just paste it here, and make sure you have to write it in a correct manner, and go there, and you need to write API dash clients. So here just use this, and make sure it should be in correct form of manner. Whatever I'm writing, just write it in the same way. And you need to send some body, because this is the post request. Post request requires some body to be sent. So click on the body, and you need to select raw, and from here you need to select JSON. So JSON is selected. Now in this requirement says, when you do register an API client, so this URL is already set, post request, and in that we need to pass this JSON. So this is the requirement. So you need to just copy this, come here, and paste it here. Client name Prince, and client email is princekumar@gmail.com, and we have selected raw, and from here drop down I have selected JSON as per our requirements. Now when you save this, make sure you just rename the request type. So here I will say, saying access token, create access token, create access token. Now save, and just click on send. So error, API client already registered. Try a different email. So this email is already registered free. Now save this and send. So before sending any request, just save this, because then send, click on send button. So access token is generated. So from here I will let you know that how I will save this access token to the environment variable. So go to the script section, and from here I will be using, let's say this is the access token which is in the this curly braces. So this is the JSON, whatever it is in response, and if it is in curly braces, that will be in JSON. Now I will be using some snippets, or I will be writing by myself from there how we will be storing this access token, this access token along with this value in the environment variable, so that I can use in the respective request. So let's talk here. Go to the script section. This, so script section, there are having pre-request and post response. So what is the use of pre-request and post response? So pre-request, before sending this body, before clicking on this before clicking on the send button, if anything is required before sending this request, then we will be writing in the pre-request. And if anything is sent when we click on the send, and response is generated, and after send, after creating this response, whenever we want to validate something, then we will be writing into the post response here in the scripts tab, post response. So here I will be storing this access token into the environment variable. If you go to the environments, QA environment, so the QA environment I have already created, so there is no any variable. So go to the collections, click on create access token. So from here I will be using some snippets or JavaScript functions. So how we will be writing? So pm dot, so pm is a library. PM means postman. So postman is a library. On that we are using response dot JSON. So JSON is a method, and from there we are accessing access token. So access token, and we just want to save it into the environment variable. Then what we will be writing? Pm dot environment dot set. So here I just want to use key. So here I will be using bearer token. token, comma, and just paste this value. PM response.json.access token. So in this request, what we are doing, so we want to set it into the environment variable. That's why we are using pm.environment.set. And what is pm? Pm is a library in which we are calling environment variable. On that we are using set method, and we are taking this access token. So how we will be taking? PM again, Postman is a library, and on that Postman object we are calling one variable response. On that variable we are calling JSON method. So whatever the responses are in JSON, so we are taking this whole JSON, and from this JSON we are accessing this access token, and this whole value. So this will be the value we are taking into this key. So bearer token will be the key. And when we will just click on this send request, so it will say this user id is already created, username will be already created. So let me come over here. So if you go to environment, q environment, so there won't be any variable saved. So come to collection, and here I need to change. Let's say I will just use 5. So just save this and just send. So access token is now changed, and 201 is the status code, and created is the status code text message. So already access token created. If you go to the environments, q environment, so q environment is already created. Bearer token is saved now. Now I will be using this bearer token in every request. So how we will be using? So come to the collections. I have already created uh, the collection. So http methods, under this I will be using post request to submit an order. So let's say here I will be selecting add request, and from here I will be choosing post, and from here go to the requirements. So access in the register API client, or already I have sent this post request along with this endpoint, already requested this body, and we got the response as access token. And we have already set it into the environment variable, this bearer token, from the response. Now step 2, so submit an order. So step 2, submit an order. So we will be using post, and we are using this base url. So this is a variable base url. So we will be setting this variable into the environment variable. So how we will be setting this? Go to the Postman environments, in q environment. So here I will be using BASE base underscore URL, and just come here and just copy this URL, control C, go to the Postman. Initial value would be this one, and current value is this one. Now save this. So base URL is set into the environment variable. Now I will not be writing this every time. So this URL I will not be writing every time. Along with, I will be using this base URL, this variable. Whenever we want this URL, so whenever we want this URL, so I will be referring this variable base URL. So come to the collections, new request. Here post request is there. I will be using this curly braces, and you see the second option base URL, and here e says environment variable. So in environment variable, base URL is already set. When you click on this, so base URL, when you hover the mouse on base URL, so it is saying https simple ebooks api glitch.me. Whatever we have set it into the environment variable, it is just referring this value. Now I will be using this. So let me talk here, orders. So this, control C, go to the Postman, and here I will be just pasting here. Make sure you have to correct, write it. Now in that we need authorization because requirement says in step 2. So authorization is required. Bearer token, your token, you need to pass it. So we have already created a bearer token in the environment variable. So I will be using this. Now, how we will be using bearer token authorization? So go to the authorization tab. Here I will be selecting bearer token, and whenever bearer token you already selected, and we over the mouse on bearer token, so this value is coming. Whatever we set into the environment variable, so we will be using this. So along with we need body as well because it is a post request, and in post request we always request body to be sent. So for this again we need to select raw and JSON because requirement says in that we need to send this in the JSON form. So copy this and go to the Postman. Here paste it. Book ID is this one, customer name is Prince. Now already save, and here just use create or submit an order. Submit an order. Submit order. Now save this and send. So created. It says created and order ID is generated now. And it status code is 201 means it is created. So status code is 201. Whenever we send that post request, we will always be having 200 or 201. So it depends on the developer how they wants to set. If they want to set 201, then it's 201 it will be coming. If the developer set it's for post request 200, then 200 will come. So for this request 201 is selected, so that's why 201 is coming. And order ID is this one. And again here I just want to save this order ID into the, let's say, environment variable. So or we want to set it in the global variable, then how we will be setting this? So come to the scripts tab again. Then in the scripts tab there is two tab, pre-request and post response. Now I'm asking where you will setting this. Go to the post response, and here I will be setting into the globals variable. Now because of like whenever we use many request and many post response validations, then we will be learning this through this video. So let me use this pm dot globals dot set. Whenever we want to set the variable into global, then we will be using global variable, and along with set is a method. So on this, what we want to set, we want to set global's order id. So order id will be the key, and along with value. So how we will fetching this order id? Now again we will take the response pm dot response dot json. Json is a method. Along with what we want to fetch, order id. Order id. So just semicolon, save this. And whenever you will click on this send request, so 201 created, it successfully passed. And when you will go to the globals, you will see that order id is created now with this isqz. So this value isqz, and last four b4. So whenever you go to the postman, you will see in the collections submit order is qz and bv. So it's same, it's correct. Now I want to fetch an order. So click on the collection. I just want to add request. How will be setting this? Add request. Now I will be using get request. So come, so for this step 2 already response is generated with created value and order id. And in post response we have just, if you want to validate this 201, then how will be you using this? Let's say I am writing here in scripts tab and the submit order, how I will be using snippets. So let's say I just want to use, we can use snippets as well. So here snippets is there. So status code is 200. Just click on this. So pm test, pm, again pm is a library, on that we are calling method, test is a method, and here the test name. So here test name is status code is 200, and along with this function. So we either we can use arrow function or we can directly write javascript function. So by referring this keyword function with this parenthesis and a curly starting curly braces and this ending curly braces, and start in between starting and ending curly braces, we will be validating this status code. So how again we will be writing pm dot response, so response to have status. So this is the status. So what we want to validate, so I just want to validate for 201, 201, and here I will be updating message as 201. Just save this and make request. So it's passed. When we will come to test result, so status code is 201, so also this validation is passed. So that's why I'm just saying you just familiar with snippets. Along this video I will be teaching you all the snippets, how we'll be using, what are the key benefits of that. So I will tell you. Go to the get request. Now here come to the requirements. So get an order, so we will be using get along with this. Order id is already saved. Now we will fetching this. Control c, just copy this and come to postman. Here just paste it here. So whenever you will over the mouse on base URL, so HTTPS simple books API glitch.me, it is correct. And whenever you over on the order ID, so TIQ2T is coming. So order ID is also coming. So in that, do we need to send the body? No, we do not require to body to be sent in get request. Is there anything that need to be passed priority in post request? No, because order ID is coming from global variables. So just save this and rename this get order. Now save and just send. Missing authorization header. Okay, okay, authorization. So we didn't save, we didn't set authorization. So in that authorization is also required. Bearer token, your token. So come to here, select bearer token, and in that the value is coming. Now save this. Now it should pass. So ID is this one, book ID is one, customer name prince created by this one, quantity one, and timestamp this one, and 200. Okay, so already it's passed. And now go to, I just want to update. So come to three dots, add request. We will be fetching, we will be using patch request, and we will write update an order. For this we will be using authorization obviously, and we will be using patch method. So I will just copy this, control c, and come here, just paste it here, and base url is coming, order id is coming. Now here you need to send body. So go to the requirement. So request body, this json data you need to send. Control c, go to postman, select raw json, and paste it here. Customer name is prince kumar. I just want to update it from prince to prince kumar. So save this. Before saving this, just rename this. So update order. Yeah, update order. Yeah, save this and send the request. So missing or excuse me, authorization is also required. Bearer token. Now save this. Now send the request. So we left with this delete and order. So let me use this. Let's see and go to the Postman. So I'm using here delete, paste it here, and here authorization. I need to select bearer token, and bearer token value is coming. Base URL is also coming. Order ID is also coming. Now just save. So already I have renamed this delete order. Just I have already clicked on save. Now click on send. So 204 no content. So it's already deleted. That's why it is coming as 204 as a status code and text message as no content. So and one thing before delete after deleting this, we have to just relocate all the resources. So how we will relocate all the resources? So we will be writing pm dot environment dot unset. So we will be using unset method on the environment variable. So what we want to set unset. So within curly braces, we just want uh, not environment globals. So in globals we are having uh, order ID. So order ID. Copy this, come to collections, delete new order, and just in double quotes, just paste it here. Order ID. Save and send the request. So it's already 404 because I have already deleted, so no content is there. That's why it is coming 404. Now it's created. When you click on the delete order, if you go to the environments global, then order ID is present. If you go to the collections now, delete an order and just click on send. So 204 no content. Now from globals environment, globals its variable is deleted now. So that's all for HTTP methods. Now let's move on to the next topic. So next topic is understanding JSON and XML. Understanding JSON and XML. So let me copy this. What are the JSON data types? And I will explain you one by one. So let me open in the notepad here. Just paste it here. So this data is getting started with JSON, getting started with JSON and XML. So first one is JSON data types. First one is string. So as you know, so a string anything is in double quotes that is called a string. So how we will be writing into the JSON form? So let's say if there is a name, so here name is a key, and when we want to separate key and value, then we will be using colon. And after this, when we will write into the string, then we will be using double quotes. So here in name, prince will be coming. So name is the key and prince is the value. And whenever we want to separate key and value, then we will be using this colon. And key always must be included in double quotes, starting quotes and end with ending quotes. And value, it depends. So if it is a string, then we have to include in double quotes, starting quotes and with ending quotes. And let's say if it is number, let's say this is the number, this is the number. So anything number, let's say age. So age is the key. So key will always be in double quotes, and let's say age is 26. So 26 is the number, so we do not have to require to use double quotes, but the key must be included in double quotes. And if we want to separate the key and value, then we will be using colon. So now let's move to the third object. So here new concept will be there. So object, so how will we be writing? Let's say we are having this curly braces. So curly braces denotes JSON object. So in this JSON object we are having, let's say, employees, employees. So employees is the JSON object. So employees is the object here, employees is the object, and under employees we are having different sets of data. So here array represents different sets of data. On the first element we are having first data set. So in first data set, let's say here, here name is there. So name is to prince, and whenever we want to use second key value attribute, so this is the first key value attribute, and whenever we want to use second key value attribute, then we must have to use comma. And then let's say I just want to use age, then how will be writing age equals to 26. So this is the one set of data. So this employees is the JSON object. So why JSON object? Because it is starting from the this curly braces starting and ending curly braces. So under this is the employees JSON object. Under this we are having multiple sets of data. So array indicates the multiple sets of data. So this is the one set of data, and whenever we want to write another set of data, then we have to use here comma, and then the another, excuse me. So this is the one set of data, and this is the another set of data. So name here is Prakhar, and age is 23. So this one set of data, and this is the another set of data. So this is the concept of object. So employee is the JSON object here. And if we want to use array, then how will we representing this? So array, array concept, let me use this JSON object. So here I just want to use array. So let's say here we are having phone, phone. So phone must be in double quotes because it's key. And under this we are having different sets of data. Like let's say this is the first phone number, and this is the second phone number. And whenever we want to, and whenever this is the last key value attribute in the first object, then we do not have to use comma. And in the same, let's say here, the phone a number is this one, and this one. And if we want to represent null, then how will we writing? Let's say null means nothing. What null means? Nothing. Null. Let me use this object for this of null. So let me use here let's say gender, and if we do not know anything the value about gender, then we have to use null. Let's say male, and here let's say gender male. So here the point is, if we want to use as a single character, then we must have to use double quotes, starting double quotes and with ending double quotes. One is boolean boolean. So let me use this as well. Let's say married, then here the boolean would be true or false. So, and true must not have to use double quotes, because the boolean values either it can be true or false, but true and false should not be in double quotes. If we write double quotes, then it will be treated as a string, so it will not acting like a boolean variable, so boolean value. So true, and here let's say only two values will be there. Boolean married false, and if it is null, then we have to say, let's say working working working, then we can say yes true. And if we do not know the value, then we can say null. So here null, and null should not be in double quotes. So this is the data types related with JSON. So let me talk about XML only. XML, let's say this is employees, and under this lots of employees is there. Let's say first employee is whose ID is 101, and under this we have to close this employee, and for this employee the name is, and we have to close name as well. So this is the tag prince, and we are having age 26. So XML, like it is working like as HTML tag. So this is the starting tag and this is the ending tag. When we have to parse this, then we have to use employees dot employee. If we want to fetch age, then employees dot employee dot age. So in that way we can just find the age, what is the age of this employees. And let's say employee ID is this one, and employee ID is, let's say 102, and here Prakhar is there, and here 23 is there. So in that way you can use XML. So XML work like as HTML. So this is the starting tag, this starting XML, and this is the starting ending tag of XML, and this is the one set of data, and this is the another set of data. In one set of data we are having one name and age, and when we want to, when we open this tag, then we must have to close this, and in between we have to write inner text value. And in the same way we can create as many as we want. So this is the concept of XML. So if we want to fetch this age, then how we will fetching employees under this employee ID 102, under this we have to fetch age. So in that way it is working. So this is the concept of JSON and XML. So let me move towards, so this thing already I have explained. You can see array concept. So phone number, this is the concept of phone number. And null, so married null and married null, we can say. Boolean, so working true, so working false, only two value is there. So XML like this. Now response validation and assertions. So in this we can see that I have already just used some snippets, like in submit order. If you go to scripts and in post request, post response, I have already used some snippets code. So this is the snippets code I have used. So in that way you can use the snippets from here. So let's say if we want to, let's say I just want to, so here body is like this order ID. So if we want to fetch order ID, then in that code I have written like this. And if we want to validate this to 201, then I have used this code. So get an order. So if we want to set this customer name to uh, environment variable, so I am just setting this environment variable. And if we want to, let's say, already get an environment variable, we have already illustrated this. Get a global variable, I have already illustrated this in this example. So get a variable, how will we getting a variable? So first of all we have to set this variable. So set an environment variable, then we will get a variable. So along with, we can say clear a global variable by using unset method. So status code we have already seen that. Response body contains a string. Response body JSON value check. So how we will check? Let's say I'm writing this here. JSON value check. So here it is saying PM. So postman dot test. Test is a method. So this is the test name, your test name. So this is the function, JavaScript function, in which we are using PM dot response dot JSON. We are taking this JSON and we are storing into JSON data. And JSON data we want to fetch, let's say book ID. I just want to fetch book ID. So book ID is, make sure whatever the things that is written here in the response, you have to copy paste here. Otherwise, if it is any mismatch, it will not work. So book ID is, let's say, one. If you want to just validate this, so just save this and send the request. So test result one is passed, validating book ID is one and 200. Okay. So this case is passed. So in that way, you have to use the snippets, status code successfully post request, code name has a string. If we want to use this, okay, then how? Okay. If we want to validate this, then how, what snippets we will be using? So come here and here code name has a string. Just click on this. Status code name has a string. Okay, so here I will be writing okay, and pm dot response dot to have a status. What we want? Okay, not created. Okay, now save this and send the request. This time two results passed. Status code name has a string okay. So this thing has passed. In the same way you have to use snippets. It is a very simple manner we have to use it. Now come to the another topic. So this is the response validation and assertions. So I have already given this examples like syntax for response validation, what we have to use. So function name, so pm on the postman object we have to use function on that. Here the test name will be there along with this function. This function is javascript. Along in that curly braces we have to use assertions. Assertions means validation. We have to put validations in this in between these curly braces. So if we want to validate a status code, then we will be writing these snippets. So pm dot test status code is 200 function, pm dot response dot to have a status 200. So we have already seen that. And if we want to use status code successfully post request, so if we want to be validate for, let's say, if it is 201 or 201, if any of these is true, then this code will be executed. So this code will be executed if any of these value is correct. So a status code text, we have already seen that if it is okay, then this code of executed. So response time, if it is more than 200 milliseconds or 400 milliseconds, then this code will be executed. In headers, content type header check, if we want to check for key, content type key, then we will be writing this code. Just go through that, you will get better understanding. If not, just write it into the comment section box so that I can help you. So we have already set a global variable, get a global variable, we have already seen that. I will sharing this doc to you in the description section. Please download from there. So I have written all the things that is required for this API testing using Postman. So let's move on. So what is API chaining? API chaining is the process of making sequential API calls where each call depends on the response from the previous one. So what does this mean? Let me flip to the notepad and I will tell you there. So let's say there is API 1. So this is called API 1, and if we are sending this API and it's generating some response, so here it is generating some response. So in response, let's say it is generating ID, name, and another details. So if ID is generated, and if we are making this ID as the part of the second request, so here API 2 is there. And whenever API 2 is sending some request with this ID and it generating some response here as well. So here again response is generating, and here let's say book ID is generated. Book ID is generated, and if we are making this book ID as the part of this request, this API 3. So whenever API 3 will send along with this book ID, and it's generating some response. then this whole process this whole process is called API chaining. So what we'll just seen. So if API is sending some request and it generating some response, and if we are taking this response as the part of this second request, then this is called API chaining. So we have already illustrated here. So in that you can see, let me just close this alt tab. So in submit order, so whenever we will submit this, let me send this. So order id is generating, and we are taking this order id. So this response order id we are taking into environments global variable order id here. And in the second request get order, here order id we are fetching this. So whenever we click on this, so again book id is there, book id is there, and customer name is there. If we want to make this customer name, so this customer name, if we want to make this customer name to the second, to the third API request, then this is called API chaining, and we have already seen that. So here order id is generated, and submit order id is generated, and we are taking this order id into update order here, and in delete order as well. So this is called API chaining. And let me go to the another topic. Let me see what we have understood and what we have covered. So we have covered what is an API, key components of an API. We have already seen how API works. We have already seen what is Postman. We have already seen HTTP methods. So I have illustrated examples for that. User authentication, API authentication. So in bearer token, while we are using bearer token, we have already illustrated that. And understanding JSON and XML, we have also seen that. Response validations and assertions, so we have already seen, and we have also utilized all the snippets. So snippets also utilized script section, pre-request and post response, we have also already seen. Variables, whenever we want to set the variable into global or environment variable and fetching from there, we have already seen that. Now API chaining, so we have already seen that. Now the only one topic is left with data driven testing. So what is data driven testing? So let me go to the Postman, and if I want to just click on the collection, and here if I will choose run collection, so the post is selected, get is selected, patch is selected, delete is selected, and iterations what you want, how many iterations you want. I want 5 iterations, and let me delay this for 3 seconds so that I can see all the tasks to be gonna to be done. So select file. So I am selecting this data driven testing books JSON file. Let me open this. So this is the data. So this is the first set of data, this is the second set of data, this is the third set of data, this is the fourth set of data, and fifth set of data. So this is the array. In an array we are having multiple sets of data. So this is the JSON, and if we want to just open this, so this data, this file is selected data driven testing, and if we are selecting through here this file, and if we run this, so data is being fetched from our external file, that is called data driven testing. So let, let it be executed first. So 5 iterations is done, and let me explain you what is data driven testing. So from external file, let's say this is the external file, and in external file there is 2 columns. First name is, let's say, book id, book ID, and here customer name is there. Customer name is there, and in that we have five sets of rows. So one book ID, one book ID 2, book ID 3, book ID 4, and book ID 5. And customer name, let's say Prince is there. On second customer name, let's say Kim is there. Third name, let's say John is there, and so on, so on. So if we are fetching these sets of data, first set of data, first and Prince, so the key will be 1 and the customer name will be Prince. So with this data, if we are fetching this one and Prince, one set of data at a time, so this is called data driven testing. We are fetching from the external file, so this is called external file, and from this external file we are fetching these sets of data. On the second iterations we will fetch 2 and Kim. On the third iterations we will be fetching 3 and John. So each time we are fetching one set of data and we are just validating it and just executing all the steps. So that is called data driven testing. I hope this crash course helped you to prepare for an interview and to revise the concept on API testing using Postman. If you really liked this videos, please like, comment, and share to the needy candidates, those who are looking for the crash course on API testing using Postman. If you really liked it, please like, comment, and share. It really helped me to boost up and come up with more exciting contents and to just avail to all the resources to you guys. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.